Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm very happy to have you here, guys. So as you can see, today we are trying out some Montale fragrances. It's been such a long time since I have reviewed some Montale fragrances on my channel, but I feel like Montale is a very popular brand known for fragrances that perform, fragrances that last, fragrances that project, and usually fragrances that smell a bit more artificial. I will be very honest about that, but still I feel like they still have some amazing fragrances out there. Now, something that I have noticed, you know the saying, if you have tried a few Montale fragrances, you've tried them all. I feel like the more I test, the more I actually think this saying is true, because I have noticed that they take they take basically a DNA and they tweak it a bit here and there and they come out with different fragrances. Some work, some are amazing, some I feel like at least they didn't work for me. Today I want to try 4 fragrances here. I want to try Ristretto Intense Cafe and I want to compare it with Intense Cafe. I want to try Rose's Musk, which is one of their best sellers, which is one of their most popular fragrances when it comes to women, and it also has a very beautiful pink bottle. I will share my thoughts on, I think, their bestseller, or at least it used to be one of their best sellers, Black Oud. You guys, I got so many questions about Black Oud and I haven't tried it, and I am so happy to say that I have finally tried this fragrance, and I want to share my thoughts as well about a fragrance called Oudmazing. You guys, my cat is snoring in the background. Oh. I hope she stopped. Yeah, what I wanted to tell you is that if you have tried any of these fragrances, I would love to hear your thoughts about them. So feel free to share your experience with the fragrance down below. And not only I would love to know that, but I'm sure everyone who's interested in trying either one of these fragrances could really appreciate your feedback as well. So yes, I want to start with a fragrance that I think it's one of the most simplistic fragrances from today's video. Yeah, she didn't stop. Hold on. Okay, so I want to start with a fragrance called Rose's Musk. This is the sample that I have for it. By the way, if you are in Europe, again, you can find a lot of Montale samples and Mademoiselle samples on Vivanti, so check out the website. See? This is very beautiful. I think you can tell by my face, I actually do like this fragrance a lot. This fragrance, okay, you know what? I will spoil you everything. I will just tell you, this fragrance surprised me so much. I think it's the most simplistic fragrance that I have tried from Montale, but it's a fragrance that just works. Now this one, I'm not really sure what are the notes. I know it has rose and musk, hence the name, but besides that, I don't know what it has, but I will let you know what I actually get from the fragrance. So to me, now before I actually start and tell you what I think about this fragrance, I just want to let you know that the first time I actually smelled this fragrance, it reminded me of another fragrance that I have tried and share my thoughts about it here on my channel. It reminded me of Souvenir Floral Bouquet from Afnan, the white bottle, basically this fragrance over here, but it reminded me of that one. But I would say this one is a more simplified, stronger and more artificial version of that one with an added sugary feel. But I would say the rose used here and the rose there are pretty similar. This is quite a simplistic fragrance. This is a pretty much straightforward fragrance, nothing too complicated, nothing too challenging, nothing too unique. This is a rosy musky fragrance. This is a floral fragrance. To me, the first thing I smell when I smell this fragrance, I smell a beautiful, crisp, clean white musk. Very strong here. It will remain all throughout the development of the fragrance, accompanied by a beautiful pink rose. But imagine like pink roses with the stem, like the full rose, you know, because you also have some greenness here, but like a soft greenness in the background. And it's not like a citrusy green, it's not like a herbal green, like a grassy type of green. I would say it's that green that you get from a flower stem, especially, like, to be more specific, from a rose stem, you know. Yeah, also it's not very sweet, keep in mind, even though to my nose you do get some sugary hints in the background, you have the same sugariness that you have in Rose's Vanille, but I would say the sugariness here, it's much more subdued and it's almost like it's a cold sugary feel. Rose's Vanille has a lot of vanilla as well. That one is much sweeter, it's much denser, it's a bit more complex. This one is a very simplistic fragrance. I feel like you have the, like I've mentioned, you have the crisp, clean white musk, you have the rose, like the pink rose with the stem, so it's bright, it's light, it's airy, but at the same time it's quite crisp and cold in a sense. I do detect some powdery nuances here and there, and in the background I do detect some sweetness and that specific sugary feel that Rose's Vanille has as well, but much more subdued when it comes to the sweetness compared to that one. It's beautiful. It's a very, I feel like this is a very feminine fragrance. It's a very like dainty fragrance, you know, it's a fragrance that's elegant, but it's not too serious. I could see this one being someone's day-to-day fragrance. You could wear it to the office, you could wear it if you go to university, you could even wear it in school, you know, like a few sprays of this one is all you need. It's quite strong, but it's a simple scent DNA, nothing too complicated, nothing too challenging. However, keep in mind, I feel like if you're sensitive to Montale fragrances in general, perhaps you will feel this fragrance is quite on the artificial side. It does have this like synthetic feel that the majority of Montale fragrances have. Personally, I don't mind it. Here it's not as noticeable, let's say, as it's in other fragrances in Oudmazing, but I will touch upon that later. Here is just like a little bit of that synthetic artificial vibe, you know. This fragrance also, it's very strong. Imagine you like take this note and you turn the volume all the way up, you know. So this fragrance, it's stronger than you would expect a floral musky, like a rosy musky fragrance to be. It's stronger than that, but I feel like that's a good thing, because if you are looking for a fragrance that could be your day-to-day fragrance, that could be your effortless, casual, dress it up, dress it down type of fragrance, but still that performs, I feel like this is an amazing option. It definitely performs better than the one from Afnan, definitely performs better, and it's also, I hope you can see how oily it is. So this fragrance sticks very well to your skin, to your clothes, to your hair. It sticks very well to basically wherever you spray it. Surprisingly, this is the most simplistic fragrance from Montale, but it's the one that captivated me the most in a sense. I mean, yes, I'm used to having Montale fragrances, but there's just something about this fragrance that I like it so much. It actually went on my wish list. I would love to have it in my collection at a point, because I feel like this is the kind of fragrance, you know what, like you just want to go somewhere, you want something, you know, like you, of course, you want to apply fragrance, you want something that won't bother people around you, but you don't want something that will like fade after an hour or 2 or 3, but you want to feel feminine, you want to feel like, yeah, you know, like soft, feminine, dainty. You don't want anything that's like too, you know, like bossy, let's say. I feel like this is the fragrance. I actually feel like this is the fragrance. And again, I have to mention the performance is amazing. More than 8 hours on my skin. Longevity wise, on clothes, I haven't tried this one on clothes, but it will last, you guys. I don't think performance is an issue with this fragrance. Let's move on to a fragrance that I have seen it mentioned, especially years ago. Before I made my first Mademoiselle purchase, I was so intrigued by the brand in a way, because I know a lot of people said that they had amazing fragrances, that their fragrances scream, their fragrances are like showstoppers and everything. And I used to watch a lot of like top 10 Montale fragrances, top 10 Montale fragrance type of video on YouTube, Montale and Mancera. And I have seen this fragrance mentioned quite a lot. This fragrance is called Oudmazing, and it has fig. Now, I love to eat fig. I don't know if I love fig in fragrances, and I haven't tried a lot of fragrances with the note of fig or with the accord of fig, but I was surprised and curious about this one. And not only that, but I will insert the note somewhere over here. This has such an interesting notes breakdown. It has, I remember it has some citrusy, some fruity notes, leather and patchouli. And this is a fragrance that, let me tell you, I feel like this is the kind of fragrance that it shocks your senses, and then it will make you go everywhere. Like this fragrance, I feel like goes a bit all over the place. It's a fragrance that, first of all, I wouldn't advise you to blind buy it, honestly. I feel like when you think of Montale and Mancera level of artificialness, I hope that's a word, this is to the maximum in my opinion. Like this is borderline cheap, but it's like at that border between ultra cheap smelling and very funky and creative, you know. It's that. Sometimes I smell it, I feel like it smells very cheap. Sometimes I smell it and I'm like, oh my god, this is such a creative fragrance. I am still not sure you know, where it goes towards more, but don't blind buy this. Honestly, don't blind buy it. Just like any other fragrances, but especially this fragrance, don't blind buy it. Now, this I actually want to spray it. Okay, so I will spray it here on my fingers. The thing is, I love to spray fragrances on my skin, especially when I'm testing them, because there's nothing that, like a piece of paper, no matter, it could be the most luxurious piece of paper, okay, but the fragrance on your skin, like in contact with the warmth of your skin, will develop completely different. other notes will shine. You will actually get to feel how rich and dense it is, or how like thin, you know, if it's like airy, if it's like suffocating. You will get to feel a lot of these different nuances that are not necessarily in terms of smell, but they are more in terms of like the texture of the fragrance, if that makes sense. And I feel like the smell, you can get it from blotters, you know. I completely forgot for a second how those are called. So yes, the smell of the fragrance, you can get it from blotters, but I feel like when it comes to actually experience like the texture of the fragrance, like how warm or how cold it is or everything like this, when it comes to like the nitty-gritty details, I feel like you should spray it on your skin to get the full experience. Now, as always, I have always tried all the fragrances that I'm showing in my videos. I have tried them previous on my skin, because this is the way I test fragrances. I cannot just test fragrance on a piece of paper. Yes, if I want to remind myself how a fragrance smells, yes, of course, but like when I'm actually testing a fragrance, I always test it on my skin. Now, this fragrance, let me just tell you, the first time I smelled it, like when I smelled it from the nozzle, like when I smelled it from here, it made me think of La Vie est Belle. Honestly, so I was like, is this Montale's version of La Vie est Belle, but with an added leather note? And you will see this fragrance, it will remind you of quite a few different fragrances throughout its development. Oh, by the way, do you see how oily it is as well? Almost all Montale fragrances are very oily. Yeah, see, now this one in the opening is like a little bit of everything. It's sharp. First of all, you will be hit with the sharpness of the fragrance. This is a sharp fragrance, it's not a smooth fragrance. This is a loud, sharp fragrance, sweet as well, very sweet. To me, you know what it smells like? It smells like you have here a natural homemade fruit syrup concoction where you put a lot of figs that they are so ripe that they almost went bad. So it's like you don't want to throw them away, so you want to quickly make like one of your homemade syrups, you know. They are so ripe that they almost went bad, so you have that smell. So it's like that, the specific smell of figs, you know. It's figs, I feel like they smell very interesting, you know. If you smell the peel, I don't know how you call it. Basically, if you smell the inside, it smells one way. If you smell the outside, it smells a completely different way, you know. But yeah, imagine you like boil a syrup of ultra ripe figs. You add there like few pears and some oranges, and you boil them down till you have a syrup out of them. This is how it smells to me. So it's like ultra sweet. You guys, I cannot put emphasis on the sweetness of this fragrance. This is borderline extremely sweet, even for me, and I love sweet fragrances, but this is borderline extremely sweet. Ultra syrupy, especially in the opening till the heart. In the dry down, the syrupiness of the scent kind of dies down, but it's ultra sweet, ultra syrupy. So you have this like syrupy texture going on with a heavy dose of patchouli. The patchouli adds this like green herbal and slightly minty feel to the fragrance, but it's very prominent. All this on the base of leather. The leather accord here is very interesting. To me, you know what it smells like? It smells like the, how you call it, like the interior of a new bag, like a new leather bag, but it's almost like it doesn't get to fully go there because it's covered in the fruit syrup with the patchouli. But this is not a soft suede, you know. This is not one of those like soft, you know, like suede accord that adds just a bit of darkness. No, this I would say it's a harsh leather, it's a strong leather, but it's covered in that like homemade syrupy fruit that I was telling you about, you know. So it doesn't get to fully go there, but it has something from that like new leather shoes, you know, like new leather bag type of smell. As this fragrance starts to develop a bit on the skin, I would say this actually goes through quite a beautiful development. I feel like in the dry down is the most easiest to enjoy, like in the last bits of the dry down, but this one kind of keeps changing for a good few hours, I would say. So basically, as you wear it, and also I feel like you should love patchouli to fully appreciate this fragrance, because even though it reminds me, yes, it reminds me of La Vie est Belle, you know. Basically, La Vie est Belle is the fruity patchouli as well, but La Vie est Belle, I would say it's more mainstream, it's more safe. This one, yes, imagine like Montale's take on La Vie est Belle with a lot of leather and a lot of patchouli there. So it's almost like they wanted to make it a bit more creative, a bit more different, a bit more bold and daring, and also a bit outside of the box, I feel like. I told you, but I feel like it's borderline cheap smelling, borderline ultra creative, you know. So I feel like perhaps depending on your mood, depending on how you feel that day, depending on what you are used to, you will feel either one of the two. Like I honestly, sometimes I feel like it smells cheap, especially in certain parts of the development of the fragrance. Other times I feel like it's a brilliant fragrance, ultra creative, you know. But yeah, so even though this is a fruity fragrance, this fragrance actually has quite a lot of depth and quite a lot of darkness, especially because first of all you have figs that adds like darkness to them, to the fragrance. Then you have the leather adds a lot of darkness to the fragrance, so it's not one of those like light, bright, sweet fragrances. It's quite a harsh fragrance and it's quite a dark and deep fragrance at the same time. It's also a very loud fragrance. This screams, you guys. This doesn't like shout. This like screams, like it screams from the top of her lungs, you know. But something to keep in mind, this is the kind of fragrance that smells better in its trail or in its sillage, or when you smell it from further away, especially when I smell it like this now, then it smells when I smell it very close. Very close, you get the harshness of the scent, you get the artificial vibe more, you get that like synthetic screechy feel more. When you smell it from its sillage, like when you smell it from its trail, you get what's the most beautiful part, or like you get the most beautiful part out of the fragrance. You get the sweetness, you get the depth, you get a bit of patchouli, a bit of leather, you know, the syrupy quality. So yes, my advice would be smell it up close, because at the end of the day, if you buy a fragrance, you should enjoy it very close as well, you know, not only in the air. But definitely keep this aspect in mind, because yeah, the closer I get, the more cheap it smells. The further away I get, it's almost like I get what's best out of this fragrance, you know. Okay, so something else very interesting I have noticed about this fragrance. If in the opening it reminded me of La Vie est Belle, that like syrupy fruity patchouli feel, in the dry down it reminds me of Coco Mademoiselle by Chanel, but only the patchouli. That's the only similarity to that fragrance. Besides that, there are two different fragrances, but the patchouli used here, especially in the dry down, I feel like it gets to shine even more, because like the rich syrupy feel of the fragrance starts to tone down, so it loses some of the rawness and it's almost like it opens up, you know. And I feel like that's when the patchouli really shines the most. In the opening, low-key it was too much, because it was too much. You had the syrupiness, you had the leather, you had that like herbal patchouli feel there. It was too much. But in the dry down, as this starts to like relax a little bit, it definitely gets better and better. My favorite part is the dry down, but I do like it all throughout. However, it's not a fragrance that I feel I would like to have it in my collection, because it's, I don't know, you guys, I feel like it's a bit too much for me. I don't know if I would reach for it. However, I do feel like if you love it, this is like the perfect nighttime fragrance. Like whenever you want to go out and you want a loud fragrance, you know, like this is it. However, I don't think it's okay for office, it's okay for, I don't know. Also, I don't find it the most elegant fragrance. In a way, I find it quite provocative in a sense, you know. But yeah, I don't find it very elegant. Definitely not a classy fragrance, but it's a fun fragrance. This is a fun, loud and creative fragrance in my opinion, and it's for those people who want something like this, you know. Now, gender wise, again, it's hard to tell. Like from the top of my head, like it leans feminine because of like that syrupy fruity feel. But then again, if you consider the patchouli here, if you consider the leather, I feel like some men could pull it off, but I feel like it all comes down to personal taste in fragrances. But I feel like because of the sweetness, I am tempted to say it leans more on the feminine side. So let's move on to a fragrance that I was so curious to finally try. This fragrance is called Ristretto Intense Cafe, and I'm sure, first of all, everyone heard of Intense Cafe by Montale, and I feel like everyone then heard of Ristretto Intense Cafe. I didn't know what to expect. I have Intense Cafe in my collection and I love how it smells, but I didn't know what to expect from this one. I have sprayed that fragrance from Montale here on my fingers and it's almost like it's sticky a little bit, you know, it's such a, I don't like the feeling. Okay, so let's see this fragrance. Oops, I almost dropped it. Definitely this is much heavier on coffee than Intense Cafe. The coffee here, I feel like it's richer and it's bitter, almost a bit more bitter, and overall heavier. It will definitely remind you of Intense Cafe. So honestly, now if you have Intense Cafe and if you want to get a Ristretto, unless you truly love this scent family and you don't mind having multiples of it, it's redundant to have. It's also more syrupy. If I would say definitely much more syrupy. It smells like something that's very concentrated. Like you have the coffee here that it's a bit sweet, but it's like a black type of coffee, you know, so it's like a little bit bitter as well. But it doesn't smell like a freshly opened coffee. thing, you know. It doesn't smell like that. It smells like a coffee with like a black coffee with a lot of syrup, or no, maybe I should rephrase that. It smells like what's left of a very strong black coffee with a lot of caramel syrup. It's almost like you have, like, I don't know, like a few sips of coffee left and you add there a thick layer of caramel syrup. You make it overly sweet. You add there a bit of rose, but overall this fragrance is like extreme, a little bit extreme on every aspect of it. But I actually like that aspect about it. It's very interesting. So yeah, I feel like this one compared to Intense Cafe, first of all, it's sweeter. Yes, it's heavier on coffee. If Intense Cafe, after the opening, it goes creamy, like more smoother, rounder, creamy, this one goes syrupy and definitely way sweeter. I feel like if Intense Cafe, to my nose, smells like creamy vanilla mixed with red rose and a cafe latte vibe in the background, or like a cappuccino vibe in the background, this one to me, like I've mentioned, smells like what's left of a black coffee. Like you have few sips there, like an espresso for instance, and then you add there like a layer of thick caramel syrup, like sweet thick caramel syrup. So you have the syrupiness, you have the caramel feel, you have the sweetness there, and you have like somewhere near you have like a bouquet of red roses, you know, but it mixes it very well. It's like in the background, I feel like. And it's also sugary, much more sugary. Yeah, I really like it, honestly. I like this one. I like Intense Cafe. I feel like this one takes everything Intense Cafe is at the next level. Of course, this means that it strains away from the natural factor of a fragrance. Yeah, see, this is a gourmand, but it has an artificial aspect to it as well. It doesn't smell like an ultra natural fragrance. No, it doesn't smell like that. But it is a gourmand, you know, and it has that edible side to it. And I feel like this one layered with other fragrances, I feel like it will smell amazing. It smells so inviting, so cozy in a way, so delicious, but it's still a fragrance again. It's almost like you smell like a walking snack, more like a walking coffee, or like what's left of a coffee, but not too real, you know, even though I wouldn't mind honestly smelling like coffee. I love coffee. But yeah, compared to Intense Cafe, it's definitely heavier on coffee. This is something I have noticed, you know, in like the strength of the coffee feel here, not just in the smell, you know. It's almost like a more concentrated scent of a coffee. Now let's move on to the final fragrance. Let's move on to Black Oud. This fragrance, you guys, I will be very honest, for the longest time I put off trying this fragrance simply because I got a blind buy. I got a fragrance from Mancera blindly, which was called Black Intensive Aoud, and that was like the biggest, like till today, that one was the biggest fail in the history of fragrance purchases. That one smelled so cheap, like so cheap. It smelled like a cleaning product, even though the notes looked amazing. I hated it on any level, and I know hate is a strong word, but it just, that fragrance, no. So I was like a bit thrown off by the way Montale, by the certain types of oud decors Montale use, but especially when it comes to their medicinal fragrances, because after that I have smelled Oud Queen Roses, I have smelled Oud Damascus, I think, and I have smelled a few different oud based fragrances from them that I didn't like, honestly. So I was kind of like hesitant about this one, but this one is very different in my opinion to those fragrances. It has nothing to do with Black Intensive Oud. Absolutely nothing to do with that fragrance. That one smells cheap. It smells like a cleaning product. It's very thin. It's very like airy. It's very like light and bright. It's nothing like this one. This one is actually more of a mysterious, deep kind of fragrance, more gothic leaning, more vampy like. And also I find the scent of this one so calming and so grounding because it has a beautiful patchouli accord. Okay, so I will spray this fragrance somewhere and then I will let you know what I think about it and how it smells. Okay, see, the opening of this fragrance is very interesting. It is definitely nothing like I expected it to be. I was surprised by its greenness. This has a lot of greenness, especially in the opening and all throughout its development actually. It has a lot of greenness to it. And also I detect this like bright pink dewy roses. that are like a little bit powdery, I do detect a medicinal feel of the fragrance, but actually what I have noticed is different here compared to their other medicinal fragrances. Usually, I mean, this medicinal feel, it comes from a certain accord used in their fragrances, but in a lot of the previous times I have tried fragrances with that specific medicinal accord, it didn't have any deeper, darker notes to support it, you know. So this is why I feel like it made me think of like cleaning products in a lot of cases, because the scent itself was very thin. It was almost like a trace of a medicinal feel that you get, you know. But what's different here with this fragrance is that firstly, you only get the medicinal feel in the opening, and second of all, it's supported by a lot of different notes, so it doesn't smell like a cleaning product. It smells like a rich, thick fragrance, you know. It doesn't smell like thin and I don't know, like that specific scent of cleaning product, you know. It doesn't go there, it doesn't go in that direction. The rose, I was expecting the rose here to be more like vampy type of rose, but surprisingly, at least to my nose, the rose here is quite bright. It's quite spicy in a way, especially to my nose, and dewy at the same time. It's almost like it has this feeling like a garden filled with pink roses at nighttime after the rain. You know, it has this feeling to it. I see this fragrance as being potentially headache triggering for some people, honestly, so bear in mind, perhaps don't buy by it. Even with me, when it comes, I smelled it a few times and it almost triggered my headaches, but it didn't actually trigger my headaches. But even now when I smell it, I feel it here, you know, I feel it here. I'm very sensitive to the medicinal smelling fragrances. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just no, it's not a pleasant experience. Now yeah, back with this fragrance. Again, I was surprised by this fragrance. It's definitely nothing like I expected it to be. I feel like I almost like judged it too quickly without even trying it. You have here a lot of beautiful patchouli. I feel like it's not the same patchouli used in Oudmazing. That one is more herbal, definitely. This one is like, it puts me into a, how you say, like a meditative state, you know. It like, it calms my mind, it calms my body, it like turns off my mind, you know. It's the kind of fragrance, or like the kind of patchouli that you would use for aromatherapy, if you like. And you actually get some woody notes as well with that patchouli. So the overall composition is very dark, it's very mysterious, like I've mentioned in the beginning. It makes me think of like a gothic fragrance, it makes me think like a vampy fragrance, you know. It makes me think like a fragrance, I don't know, it gives me like this idea that it's almost like pitch black outside, you know. It was raining and you had a garden of roses, you know. It's almost like you have here that after the rain rose smell, you know. So the rose here is like a bit dewy, but you smell it during the nighttime, so it's like very cold outside. You have this like damp feeling in a sense, but it doesn't smell earthy, like damp earthy, more like damp vegetation, you know. Yeah, exactly, this feel like damp vegetation in a sense, with a bright rose, a little bit powdery, very cold, and with a rich woody feel to it. And also, as this fragrance is developing, something very interesting I have noticed. Now, I saw that this one has listed labdanum, and labdanum is one of my favorite notes and accords in fragrances, or like notes. And I was really surprised. In the opening, I got no trace of labdanum whatsoever, but as this fragrance actually started to develop on my skin, I did get the labdanum scent. Not a lot of it, but like a little bit, to give it a bit of a different feel to the scent. And I was so like surprised when I smelled it. It smelled like rich, a little bit sweet propolis like, but mixed within the patchouli, the woody notes, the bright rose, you know, everything else. But it added this like very interesting complexity to the fragrance. But I feel like what it did to the fragrance, it just added a bit of fullness to the fragrance, you know, like a bit of richness to the fragrance without changing its dark, mysterious facet, you know. So I feel like this fragrance, the more it stays on your skin, the better it gets, especially when you get closer to the dry down and when the labdanum feel starts to show. It makes the fragrance fuller, it gives the fragrance a slight ambery feel as well, but like a rich, like specific smell of labdanum. You have it here as well, mixed within the dewy, bright pink roses that now almost have like this soft, spicy feel to the nose. Perhaps it's a rose and labdanum mix, I don't know, but it's almost like the rose now gets a spicy, like a spicy undertone in a way, with the same like relaxing, grounding, herbal green type of patchouli. and with the woody feel, but the woody feel is more now in the background. So again, I was very surprised. I feel like this was such a feared fragrance, and it was made to be such like a beast fragrance, such like a non-approachable, impossible to enjoy, almost only for like top few percent of people. I don't know, but I actually find this fragrance to be actually quite enjoyable. Like it's a fragrance that I have similar fragrances to it in my collection. For instance, now not similar in the sense that they dupe it, but it gives me a similar feel. The closest one that I can think of right now, it's Floral Intense for Women by Armaf. That one is again like an earthy patchouli, but that one is much thinner, while this one is a bit more richer in a sense, a bit more dense as well. Now you guys, if you have been wanting to try Black Oud for the longest time, and you kept putting it off and putting it off like me because you thought it would be just another medicinal scratchy Montale Oud based fragrance, I would actually encourage you to get a sample if you have the possibility. For me, I don't know you guys, but I will be very honest, for me this is the kind of fragrance I would use when I would like to calm my mind in a way, or like when I feel very nostalgic, or like when I feel like I'm in a very like a deep thinking mode. It's beautiful. It's very cold as well. See, even now on paper, as I let this paper stay, I start to get more of the labdanum feel here. I actually really do like this fragrance. It has, like when I smell it, it's almost like I want to close my eyes and to just stay here and smell it, you know? Now, for me, this kind of scent family, I don't know why, but it makes me think of aromatherapy, of something that's like, it relaxes you, you know, it's almost like a mix of essential oils made to for a relaxation or anything, you know. Would I wear it out? Let me think. Yeah, I think I would. I think I definitely would wear it out. Yeah, this is very beautiful. Now, for me, I will be very honest, it would be a bit redundant to get this one at this moment in my collection, because I have other fragrances that I like, and this is a scent family, like, yes, it has an oud feel here with a rose, but this is very cold compared to the kind of oud fragrances that I gravitate towards, especially now. But this is not just a rosewood fragrance. This is mainly a rose patchouli with a woody feel in the background and labdanum. But this is not just a rosewood combo. I feel like here the star of the show is the patchouli. The patchouli makes this whole composition feel very like grounding, feel very like relaxing, calming, you know, like calming for your senses. So yes guys, those are my thoughts about these fragrances. I have to say they were quite successful, all of them. Even Oudmazing, I still like it. I just don't think it's the kind of fragrance that necessarily suits my style and taste when it comes to fragrances. I actually had a great time testing these fragrances. I enjoyed discovering their fragrances, and I still feel like Montale has some amazing offerings. Now, of course, it's all about finding something that works for you, but I will be very honest, Rose's Musk captivated me. It's like, I don't know, it's a fragrance that I feel like I would love to have it in my collection. I don't have anything like this in my collection. I have a lot of darker rose fragrances, but I don't know, there's just something about this fragrance that like mesmerized me in a way, you know, maybe because of its simplicity. Sometimes you don't need the most complicated fragrances. Sometimes I feel like, at least when it comes to me, I'm surprised, especially lately, perhaps that because I have tried so many heavy fragrances, they don't surprise me anymore, you know. I'm not like, whoa, what is this, you know. No, I actually like, I know where to take them from, or like how to test them, you know. But when it comes to these types of fragrances, lately I was surprised by a lot of lighter fragrances, more simplistic fragrances. Maybe my taste is evolving, I don't know, but I like that fragrance a lot and it's going on my wish list. Next guys, Oudmazing. It's a great fragrance, it's just not for me. I wouldn't advise you to blind buy it. Like I've mentioned, it's borderline cheap and trashy, borderline fantastic and creative, unique, you know. So I feel like it's up to you to explore this fragrance and see what you feel about this one on your own. Black Oud definitely surprised me. I was expecting something else, but I was surprised in a very good way. I actually think this is a great fragrance. Now I know why so many people actually talked about it. I can definitely see why, but still, at the moment, it's not a fragrance that I would love to have in my collection. Oh, and by the way, it's a complete unisex fragrance. The rose is not so sweet. You have the patchouli here. Patchouli, I feel like you have it in both fragrances, in fragrance compositions for women, for men, you know. And when it comes to woody notes and labdanum, again, you have it both in compositions for women and for men. And when it comes to Ristretto Intense Cafe, Again, it's a fragrance that I really like, and I feel like it's going on my wish list as well, but I'm just waiting to finish a few more fragrances, you know, within the same scent family. So yes, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have tried any of these 4 fragrances, I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts about them below. If you want to tell me anything, as always, please put it down in the comment section, and I will promise that I will get back to you. I'm trying my best to respond to the most of my comments at the moment on my YouTube. This is why I'm posting videos a bit less frequent than usual, but I'm actually responding to more comments. And thank you, like, I appreciate each comment you leave me. Never think that one of your comments goes unnoticed. I actually read all of your comments, and I try to respond to as many as I can, and I will respond to all, basically. The good ones, the bad ones, I just ignore them. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, you guys. Don't forget you can follow me on Instagram. Here is my handle, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and I want to wish you an amazing day wherever you are. Bye.